Hey, if you're thinking, I barely have time to write, let alone start a podcast, I got you. My Start Your Author podcast checklist helps busy writers like you start a podcast without sacrificing your writing time. No more guessing or Googling. Starting is actually the easiest part of podcasting, and with this step-by-step checklist, you can fit it in over the next 6 weeks or even next weekend. Stop letting uncertainty hold you back. Grab your free checklist at the link below and get on your way to serving your target readers today. Hey, I'm Kim, and I'm so thrilled you're here to learn how to reach and serve your readers as a podcast host and guest. Have you been thinking of writing a nonfiction book that helps you grow your business? You may already be writing narrative nonfiction or memoirs about your personal journey, but perhaps you're wondering if a nonfiction book is possible to help you share your coaching, your consulting, or frameworks within your courses with your audience too. That's my goal for this year, and if it's yours too, you will love today's conversation with my new friend, Jodi Brandon. Jodi is the author of Write, Publish, Market, From Idea to Published Book, The Entrepreneur's Blueprint. She's also a book publishing coach, an editor, and she hosts the Write, Publish, Market podcast. I love Jodi's show, and we recently connected through the Threads platform, and I couldn't wait to have her on the show to talk about the difference in writing a book that grows your business versus other nonfiction books, and to hear all her wisdom on how to write, publish, and market your own book. You are in for a treat today, so let's get to it. Hey, Jodi, welcome to Book Marketing Mania. I'm so thrilled you're here today.
Hey, Kim. It's great to talk to you. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, this is so fun. So, Jodi, I want you to tell us about your book, which I know you're working on updating it, Write, Publish, and Market. And tell me about who it serves and kind of how your podcast works together with that.
Okay. So Write, Publish, Market, is a third edition coming, which is hard to believe, honestly.
Yeah.
I tell people all the time that sometimes it's time to revise the book and other times you can put it off. And there's so many things have changed in the self-publishing and the hybrid publishing world that there's now inaccurate information in Write, Publish, Market. So it's time. So it's happening. And it is for business owners who want to use a book as a marketing asset in their business. And they don't know what they don't know. And it sort of takes them through those three big pieces, Write, Publish, and Market, just to kind of give them enough information so that they know the basics, they know what they need to do to get that business asset created and out there serving them.
Good. Oh, I love that. Now, what about your podcast? Because I know it is by the same name.
So right now, I'm very particularly using the two together because I'm running a series right now on the behind the scenes of the book revision. But in general, it's one of those, I talk about that in the book and, reference the book regularly on the podcast, especially my solo episodes. I use the book contents to create episode titles and episode series, things like that. So I see them as, really like two arms of my marketing toolbox, and they're great partners.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I love when authors I think John Acuff does this really well, where they change their podcast name to match their book, way before their book release because their content's kind of shifted that way. And I think as long as that works, for your audience and your target readers. But I love it so much because you have been giving us that behind the scenes look, Jodi. Yeah. And, everywhere you turn, that's what people say they want. They want the behind the scenes. People that are teaching social media say you got to give them behind the scenes. They don't want all the flashy, the marketing and tips. They really want the meat of it. We want to follow your journey. So you're such a great example of doing that. So, because I know I'm writing my first book, so I don't know all the answers to this. So I'm asking selfishly about it, I guess, Jodi. But I know supposedly if you're self-publishing, it's easy to make edits right on your book. But you're talking about when you say a third edition, you're totally rewriting some of it. Is that right?
Yeah, they say, quote unquote, if you're changing more than like 10% of the text, it's really considered a new edition
Oh, okay.
versus just like, I'm updating like a couple of statistics here and there or like a quote from somebody, something like that. Super easy to do, especially an ebook edition.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, this is more substantial than that. So we're, going all out here. It's going to be a
Yay.
new
And that comes
edition.
out, is it October? Is that right?
October 2025. Yes.
Okay. Okay.
So,
Yay.
yes.
That's so
Yeah.
fun. How did you pick October? Is that like a timeline or a specific time of the year you think is good?
That's a good time of year for business development books, typically. One, like a lot of us as business owners still have that like back to school mindset. So
Yeah.
September, October, we're starting to think about like maybe not like full on doing the vision board or something like that, but starting to think about what's next year going to look like. And a book is, not something, as you do on a whim. Like
Uh-huh.
it's going to take some time and effort on your calendar. So if you've got those, sort of big business bucket list items,
Uh-huh.
people start thinking about them in the fall. So I always say October because the closer you get to the holidays, the
Mm-hmm.
more things slow down. On Amazon, on Lulu, on Ingram Spark, on all the platforms, just getting things approved as the holidays get closer and closer. So October is a good time because you're getting in before that.
Uh-huh.
The book will be available for the new year when people are, ready to start doing those things. And it's a great way to, do a little holiday push at the very beginning. You've got a built-in like early marketing idea there with
Yeah. Oh,
holidays.
that's a
So
great idea. Yeah. I
yeah.
actually love to buy books for people, right? And then,
Yes,
yeah, if you were doing
people,
it for
yeah.
your business. Yeah. Oh, I love
Yeah.
that idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, as an editor, do you have somebody edit your books for you?
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. Yeah, you shouldn't say you have to, but
Yeah.
you have to. Like, I mean, I can't tell you the number of things that I've missed just because I've read it so many times that it says what I think it says. It
Uh
doesn't
huh.
always say what it actually says. And then, I mean, the first time when I did the first edition and I sent it to a copy editor and it came back, I was mortified. I was like, I cannot believe, I cannot believe that I have this many errors in my book. And it's
Uh-huh.
just, yeah, our brains work funny. So you definitely, even no matter how much you edit other people's stuff, you get another set of eyes.
Yeah, yeah, that's
Yeah.
great. Yeah, I'm the same way, like, with marketing, like, I love doing everybody else's marketing, but when it comes to my own, I'm like, I don't know what to do," and
Yeah. Yeah.
stuffed on it. Oh, that's
Yep.
so funny. Well,
Yeah.
so let's talk about, self-publishing because it
Yeah.
has changed so much, and there's
Yes.
so many more resources now than there used to be. Can you just share maybe some tips or mistakes to avoid in the process? Like, let's break it down, like, how your book is kinda writing, publishing, marketing. Can
Okay.
you, give us some, like maybe one tip or one mistake you see in each of those areas?
Okay. Yeah, I like the way you asked that. Okay. So I would say with the writing, just make sure that you're clear on your goals. I mean, you got to be clear on all the foundational pieces. I relate them to like who, what, where, when, why, like seventh grade English. Like,
Yeah.
be clear who your audience is. Be clear what your goals are for the book. Be clear about, the topic of the book and the promise that you're making, the transformation you're providing, etc. And if you can get clear on those, the whole process, everything from that point forward is going to be so much simpler. So, too many people, I think, fall into the, my book's for everyone.
Yeah.
Your book is not for everyone. Your book is not for everyone. And so I would say that's the writing mistake I see. The publishing mistake is really just, not being open to everything that's available to you.
Okay.
So many people, I mean, this is very true, especially for the people I work with, business owners.
Uh-huh.
I think it's true for all authors. You should be selling your work yourself on your own website in addition to the other places,
Okay.
Amazon and all the other places. Have your book available there. People are going there for books.
Mhm.
So that's like, cherry on top of the sundae. But for business owners, especially, if you're not direct selling to consumers because you're not getting customer data from Amazon or Ingram Spark or the other places, and you just have so many options for, sales multipliers, tripwires, upsells, downsells, all the things if you're capturing that customer information when
Uh-huh.
you're selling it yourself. So that piece I think is really important. And then the marketing mistake, I mean, honestly, there are a lot of marketing mistakes, but
Uh-huh.
I think the biggest one is not starting early enough.
Oh, yeah.
It is never too soon to start marketing. Get people onto your email list, take them along the journey, whether that marketing looks like a, behind the scenes podcast series like I'm doing, like taking people along. showing them little bits and pieces. There's a lot of people that, document the whole journey on social media.
Hmm.
Get people involved. I mean, I always say, I see sometimes people are doing, vote on my cover. I don't love that one. Because if they pick the wrong cover,
Yeah.
so you're either like not publishing the right cover, or you're, breaking that trust because told the audience they were picking the
Yeah.
cover. But, more goes into a book cover than just, what your social media followers think. But it's a great example of getting engagement throughout the process well before the book is ever published. Because if you can, have this group of people like, behind you, propping you up and cheering you on when the book actually comes out, I mean, it's going to make that part of the process so much easier. So it's never too soon to start talking about the marketing.
Yeah, yeah, that's such a great point, and I love talking about that. Just yeah, there's so many ways you can do that, and I'm going to link when it airs. When I'm a guest on Jodi's podcast, we talk a lot about podcasting. So
Yes.
if you want to start podcasting before your book comes out, I'm going to make sure we link to that so
Yeah.
that they can hear the conversation on your show. So let me ask you some questions on that, Jodi. Back to the writing stage.
Hmm.
Um, how do you know? Like, well, let me ask first, people that think they've got the traditional publishing in their
Yeah.
mind, and that's kind of the world. I supported authors in that field for so long. And so to move into self-publishing, we kind of take it with us like it has to be a 200 or 300, page book, has to be this many words in it
Yep.
to really feel like, okay, I've authored a nonfiction book. But
Yeah.
it's not really true anymore if you're self-publishing.
It really isn't. What I love about self-publishing is it can be anything you want or need it to be.
Uh-huh.
I know a lot of people still think of traditional publishing as real publishing. Self-publishing is like a plan B if you can't get that book deal. And
Hmm.
I think that's hogwash,
Yeah.
personally,
Yeah.
especially for business owners. And the reason I say that, Kim, is because your goals as a business owner with a book are so different.
Yes. Yes.
Like, your book is a marketing asset. You're not trying to, write 15 more books and
Uh-huh.
become, a professional author. So your goals are so different. And then again, if you can piggyback, upselling to a course or a training or something like that with a book sale, or after a book sale and you're, nurturing those people through your email list, it just looks so much different than the goals of a professional author. And
Hmm.
self-publishing can really serve the business owner, CEO, leader market, um, in ways that honestly traditional publishing just doesn't, because our books are not typically, they're not as flashy. They're not like the ones that are drawing like the celebrity endorsements and like all that kind of stuff. I think that's what we think of when we think of traditional book publishing, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And honestly, that's part of it, right? The big parties in New York City and
Uh-huh.
all of
Yeah.
that. I mean, I worked in traditional publishing too, just like you served that audience. I mean, yeah, that's what it's like. But there's 2 or 3 really big books each publisher focuses on, and then everybody else kind of gets left behind, and the authors are trying to like figure it out on their own.
Uh-huh.
So if you're going to be figuring out the marketing piece and doing a lot of it yourself, like, doesn't it make more sense to know that from the get-go and position yourself in a way that you are doing the things that you love, doing the things that you're good at, figuring out, where to best spend your time, energy, money, budget, and then keeping more of the money on the back end.
Yeah, yeah, that's such a great point. And I know there's so many people that I've met that, they're holding out for that traditional publishing
Sure.
contract. And, maybe it'll go for them, maybe it won't.
Yeah.
But I feel so bad because sometimes it can be such a long, painful process and they could have gotten a book out, and
Yeah.
serve their readers now. But,
Yeah.
each journey is different for sure.
Yeah.
So, what about, let me ask you, and this is a super selfish question, Jodi, but I want to ask you about, when you are writing your book, how do you know if it's like, this isn't really about the word count, but it kind of guess goes with that question. But, how do you know if it's like too much? So you're like, wait, this is really 2 different books. Like, how did you
Mhm.
decide, like, write, publish, market to be 1 book versus 3?
Okay. So going wide versus going deep.
Uh-huh.
That's how I look at it. So you go back to that foundational question of your goals. What are you trying to do? Are you trying to, maybe go deep and share a methodology that you want to share so much about each of those sections? For me, the right publish and market piece.
Uh-huh.
If I want to share everything in one, then it's 3 different books. I decided I would rather do, I'm not saying it's surface level, there's no good information in there.
Yeah.
I'm saying obviously you're not going to learn everything in the 150 pages, right?
Right.
And that's not my goal. My goal is to give you enough for each of those phases to know what you need to do next, who can help you, who you need to help you, and how to do it on your own if you would prefer to do that. So
Oh,
it's
yeah.
really
Okay.
just it goes back to what is your goal with the book, and that sort of dictates then the shape that it takes. Because I can clearly say at the end, if you say, "Do you teach everyone everything they need to do about writing?" No. About publishing? No. About marketing? No. But if I tell you that my goal is to give that overview style, have I met that promise? Yes.
Yeah. I think that's so
So,
good. Yeah. To think about what your promise is you're making to your reader. And then,
yeah.
yeah, you fulfill it. And is that enough or is it too much? Yeah, that's so great. Cause yeah, I've been really wondering about that. So I so appreciate that.
Yeah.
Well, so let me get back to the marketing
Yeah.
section. So we talked a lot about podcasting and we can talk about it more if you want, but I would love just to hear what you have seen with business owners using a book to build their business. What are you seeing working really well for them to market that nonfiction book?
One of the things that's so popular right now is like a book club style, like read along with me book club. Some people are doing it as a paid feature. Some
Uh
people are
huh.
doing it as a way to build up their email list to then nurture into something else. So you buy the book and you get automatic access. That is working really well for people right now. I don't know how long that will last. I hope forever because I think it's a brilliant idea. I think it's so smart.
Uh huh.
The big thing is really that, direct sale piece, that just figuring out how that works for you. And that's going to look different for every business owner, obviously,
Uh huh.
depending on, so you've got to have that like middle piece in your value ladder for this, I think, to really work well. Like somebody's not going to buy a $10 paperback and then, hire me for $3,000 a month book coaching. There's got to be something, in between there, right? So you
Yeah.
have to have your value ladder figured out to really make the direct sale piece work for you. And then the other thing that I love to see is tapping into those secondary markets, those secondary audiences.
Uh huh.
Like I call those the people that can like get you to your ideal reader. So this is super popular with, health and wellness books, for example. So I worked with somebody who wrote a book for parents with a baby, in the NICU.
Mm-hmm.
So that's her audience, are those parents. Now, she doesn't know all of those parents. So one of her marketing techniques and plans was to approach doctors' offices,
Uh huh.
infertility clinics, social workers at hospitals, because those are the people that can get her book into the hands of her actual ideal readers. So that's really popular. I've seen diabetes educators do things like that.
Uh huh.
Nutritionists do things like that. So figuring out who can get you access and then tapping into that market. And that honestly looks more like traditional book marketing the way
Uh
you
huh.
do that, because a
Yeah.
lot of those not online business spaces are still led by, like traditional PR campaigns and
Uh huh.
pitches and press releases and things like that. So that is another really popular one, but that looks a little bit different depending on your industry. But I
Mm-hmm.
think it's super smart.
Yeah, that is so, that's so fun to just kind of think outside that box
Yeah.
of yeah, who am I trying to reach? Who's going to read this book? And then yeah, what
Yeah.
is their circle
Yeah.
like? And
How else can
also,
I get to them? Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and I think sometimes we forget to like, I coach a lot of my clients on. You have to also think about like who supports them? Like,
Yeah.
like you're going like the doctor route and, who, supports moms with their babies in NICU. But I also think like for me as a friend, I'd be clueless. I'm just so clueless sometimes
Yes.
what to say when someone's going through something like that. So it's like, you want to get in front of other moms that, yeah, they're not going through this, but they have mom friends that are. And, how
Yeah.
do you support them? So yeah, it's
Yeah.
so fun just to think of all those different angles and open up your
Yeah.
mind to different marketing avenues. Well, yay. Thanks for
Yeah.
sharing that. That's so fun.
Yeah.
Well, this has been so good, Jody. I could talk to you for hours. I mean, selfishly, totally, but I know my listeners are loving this too. So we may have to do it again, but I'll be sure and link to Jody's podcast and my episode when it airs. But Jody, just tell us where's the best place for people to connect with you if they want to learn more about your services and your podcast.
I would say my website's jodibrandoneditorial.com. That's where I link to my
Okay.
book, my podcast, all of the things. And yeah, your podcast episode was fantastic on the Right Published Market
I can't
podcast. So
wait.
definitely check that out. Yeah.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I'll be sure to put links to all those in the show notes. Well, thanks so much, Jodi. I appreciate it, and good luck on your book. I can't wait to get it in October.
Thank you, Kim. This was so fun.
I agree. Oh, I just love Jodi. And I'm going to have to go back and listen again to what she shared about getting clear on your goals for your book and the transformation for your readers, because I think it's so similar to what we do as a podcast host and guest, and because I want to write the best possible book for you. So thanks for tuning in to Book Marketing Mania today. And as always, I'll be there for you next episode to help you reach and serve your readers one podcast at a time. See you then.